Hello. Today we watched RWBY Volume 1. And yeah. So I watched this. When did I even watch this? I want to say like 2018 or something. I don't know. Something like that. Tara, you have seen this before, right?
I saw Volume 1 when it was coming out, when it was being released, yeah. But I remember watching part of Volume 2, but I don't think I finished it, and then I haven't kept up since.
And my
only exposure has been the trailers when they came out, and like the HBomberGuy video, which came out like 2 years ago now or something, and I don't remember it.
Yeah.
So I've had little to no exposure besides like cosplays and the fact that it was unavoidable, and like the fact that an artist that we follow worked on the background art, and that's it.
Yeah. So here's what I will say.
Oh boy.
It's not, well...
It's not Vampire Night.
No, it's not Vampire Night. And it could have been good.
Yeah.
But it's not.
What I remember... Okay, so I guess actual observations. It seems like the fight scenes are very well done. And I think anyone can... But as Mai pointed out, there is everyone has a gun.
Everything is a gun, and like it can be interesting, and it can be like it can be done right, but there are some like there is a gun and a scythe, and like I guess in theory it would be interesting, but I think the gun that I was the most impressed by was the one from the monkey dude with the bow staff that became the nunchucks, that became the gun. That was cool.
We'll see, like,
but the other
I will...
excessive guns.
Yeah, well, okay, because here's the thing, like, again, give them credit. The weapons that pretty much everyone has are definitely, like, unique, right? And they're, like, they're not anything else. So that's a good thing. The thing is, some of them are so weird that it's, like, kind of hard to, like, follow what they're even doing with them. So that's one thing where it's like, wait, what's going on? So, but that said, though, yeah, overall, the animation, again, given, I'm sure, the budget they had and, you know, the time or whatever and how many people working on this, given that, the animation for the fight scenes is overall pretty good.
Yeah. The animation for the not fight scenes, on the other hand,
ass.
Yeah. And like it's not it's not simply animation quality, it's like the editing and like the pacing of it, and like it's really it does not hit the mark like 90% of the time.
Background characters are all shadows.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing that doesn't help is that they also try to add a bunch of... So, other than the fight scenes, it seems like the main genre for this is comedy. But the main thing is that it's very specific comedy, and it doesn't really land most of the time.
I guess like the thing is that they tried to do like the animisms, and because the animation is so janky and some of the writing is really weird, it's so awkward to like observe these jokes and be like, oh my god, why did you do this?
It's largely pacing. The pacing is really bad with the humor, and that said, like. And also, okay, the dialogue is it's bad for many reasons. Like, they explain some things really poorly. The main thing was the whole aura thing that Pyrrha talks about. It's like, literally, what the fuck are you talking about? But other things...
They overlaid it off of, like, a fight scene that was actually interesting.
And it was totally unrelated.
Yeah, it was totally unrelated. And it's like, of course you're going to pay attention to the fight scene, and kind of whatever Pyrrha was saying goes in one ear and out the other ear.
Yeah, and the other thing is that, like, there's other things they just don't explain. Like, like the whole thing, like, remember how the whole thing where Pyrrha, like, you know, somehow, like, moves, like, John's shield or whatever, and everyone's like, what was that? And it's like, oh, that's like my semblance. It's like, wait, what the fuck is that? Like, it's not, like literally, that was like the only time it was mentioned. And what's also weird is that, like, again, you know, all of, because it's one of the things where, like, all this other crazy shit is happening where, like, you know, of course the gods of the weapons, but, like, you know, Weiss's glyphs or whatever seem to be like magic stuff, and like the fucking, in the fight in the first part where what's her name shows up and it's like shooting these blasts or whatever, and so you're just like, okay, so people can do like magic stuff or whatever, and it's like, oh, but no, but this like this like weird thing where Pyrrha moves the shield, that's the weird thing. It's like, okay, it's so inconsistent about all of that, and it's just really and okay. Also, in addition to explaining things poorly, not explaining things, they also explain some things at really weird times. Namely, the whole thing with the Faunus, which comes in like 90% of the way through season 1, and it's like, why are we focusing on this all of a sudden? Like, what is this? Is the climax?
Yeah, it's like it's just related to the climax, and then they don't really even explain what dust is used for either.
Nope.
They kind of just show it, and it's like, okay, there's crystals, but then there's like, the only thing I can really describe it in this, it's like tubes. Tubes of like dust.
And remember, the very beginning thing is this sort of like, you know, 2D like thing that's animation intro, and it talks about like dust being this thing that humans use, and it's like, how is that relevant to anything that happened?
Yeah. It's also... Oh, go ahead.
No, finish. Go ahead, because there's another thing that I want to talk about, but go ahead. You probably want to...
I was going to say that I mentioned that the genre is comedy, but then it's also really strange because it's kind of like, at first, you look at it and it's like, oh, okay, maybe it's like sci-fi, but then the outfits themselves,
they don't mesh together.
It's like fantasy, and then they have like fantasy aspects, but then it's like sci-fi. And then it's like there's these monsters, but then there's like airships.
They're trying to sort of go for the Final Fantasy of, like, you know, kind of sci-fi, kind of magic, like Final Fantasy VII or whatever. But yeah, it doesn't really work that well here. I think partly because, like, I think the main reason, honestly, that I don't think it works is because the actual, like, world just looks like kind of normal modern-day world.
Yeah.
So it's like normal modern-day world, but there's magic, but there's, like, airships, and it's like, wait, what?
Yeah. Because at least in Final Fantasy, it's like they mesh it well, so it's like...
Because the actual world looks like it's made from, you know, magical or sci-fi stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But here, it's just like modern day. You expect someone to come out... Well, John is literally wearing jeans.
Yeah. And... Yeah. There's something I realized while watching this, and I didn't realize it the first time just because I hadn't seen the thing I'm about to talk about, but I realized that this show made me appreciate another show more that I don't even like that much, and that's My Hero Academia. Because if you think about it, it's kind of similar, right? Where you have these characters who have these, like, instead of like all these special weapons, they have their special powers, but they like go to this school to learn how to train and also fight against like bad guys or whatever. It's like kind of similar concept, right? And here's the thing. We were saying how the animation and the fight scenes are overall pretty good. The thing is, that's true, but there's a problem. The problem is, they're too good at fighting.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't mesh where you have these, like, basically teenagers who are somehow, like, fighting these giant monsters, doing these crazy moves and flips, but then the next scene they're in a classroom, like, being like, ew, I don't want to learn about school, and it's just like, bitch, like, this doesn't work. It doesn't flow at all. And at least, like, because the thing with My Hero Academia is that, like, the characters, some of them have really good powers, but, like, and they are teens, but, like, they're kind of not good at using them, most of them, and so they actually have to, like, yeah, they have this power, learn how to use it, and, like, how to actually fight with it or whatever, and it's like, that's the whole point of it, and it actually kind of makes sense. Again, I don't even think the show is that great, but at least it works in the overall concept of what it's trying to do, where here it doesn't do that. It's just, like, it feels so weird where you have, you know, your kind of immature, like, high school shenanigans of, like, the bully and whatever, and but then you cut to, like, this insane fight scene, and you're like, this doesn't work. It doesn't mesh.
Yeah, it's kind of like they should have aged them up to like
college years or something.
Where it's like, okay, at least it makes sense why they're like this. But instead of a school teaching them how to be a hunter or huntress,
maybe they're part of like an organization or a company or something
instead. I would have maybe, but then you wouldn't have all the comedy shenanigans, I guess.
The high school drama aspect of things, yeah. Well, because I know what I do know. So I've only seen Volume 1, but again, I have watched the HBomberGuy video. I actually rewatched it like a couple weeks ago.
Oh, you did?
No.
Yeah. And so I know, for example, that apparently a large part of Volume 2 involves a prom. So, like, fucking woohoo, right? Like, you'd miss the vital prom story if they weren't set in high school. So it's just like, oh my god. Oh yeah, that's
it's like the Harry Potter movie.
Oh no, it's Goblet of Fire, but worse. No, but what was okay. So this is a show, right? That's how it was, marketed and how it came out in episodes or whatever. And the thing is, it's paced like it is a show.
Mm-hmm.
But it's only 2 hours long.
Yeah.
Like, basically, there are at most like 4 or 5 episodes worth of material, right?
Yeah.
In this. And so it doesn't work when you basically have, again, like we were kind of joking after we watched the first half basically feels like, I don't know, like a 2-part intro episode or whatever.
Yeah, basically.
And then you have like the thing with Weiss being a bitch or whatever for like to like her team to RWBY, which is like really not that much time, but I guess you know that's one thing. Then you have the whole thing with Jean, which is like whatever. And then you have this thing with the Faunus and the monkey dude and the whole fight scene with that at the end. And it's like, and then that's it. It's like, what? Like, where's the story?
What have we learned from this season?
I feel like in 2 hours they've accomplished so much more story in Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated.
Well, not even that, but like, if again, I know that like again, they are their own. There's a smallish group of people working on their own. They probably don't have the money, the resources, whatever. Fine, but then just like make like a 2-hour movie and have it paced like a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
Why you have it where you're pretending to be a show, but you're like 2 hours long? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. The setup of the story and the pacing of the story fundamentally doesn't work with what you're doing. And again, the comment is like, yeah, more budget or whatever, and more resources that would equal like better animation, and so there's issues with that. But like, that doesn't equal better story planning. You don't need a budget to plan a story. Like, so that's the problem. Like, because I know some people, I remember, when I did watch this, they still had this on YouTube, and we had to go find like an upload of it that was on YouTube, but like someone else uploaded, whatever. And I remember reading the comments, and people were like, "Oh man, it's so fun to go back to these old episodes. Like, the animation's not great, but everything else is good." And I'm like, no, the animation is like the least problematic part about it. Because at least there's a reason that it's not super great. You know what I mean? And you can be like, okay, sure, fine, right? But like, the writing, it's just, the writing is so bad. It's so bad in so many ways. It's just, I don't understand how people, like, can't notice that.
I think it's, like, if I remember from the HBomberGuy video, too, like, Monty made all the fight scenes, and then the guys who did Red versus Blue did all the other things.
Basically.
Okay.
And they were supposed to piece it together. But I feel like knowing that, it makes even more sense why it's discoordinated and everything.
Yeah.
Because, Valen, I think you pointed out when they got to like the part where they were choosing the teams or whatever, it was like, where did this like gigantic ruin suddenly come from?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are they suddenly fighting and everything?
Yeah, and I remember from that HBomberGuy video, she did mention that there was some reports that basically Montiome would sort of like drop a fight scene on them, and they were like, shit, what do we do? How do we get there or whatever? And so like, I don't know, it could be everyone just kind of not working, because I know that there has been sort of a thing where like, oh, Montiome was the amazing, perfect guy who did everything right. It was the other people who screwed it up, and it's like, that might not even really be true. So I don't know. I'm not picking any specific blame. Well, okay, I am specifically blaming the writers, but because it is their fault ultimately. But like, in terms of besides just them, I don't know, what the issue is in terms of why.
I don't know what.
It's just, it's a fundamentally flawed thing, and it's just I don't get it. It's one of those things where like, again, I really don't see, and I'm really trying not to sound mean when I say this, but I don't understand how people can think this is good. Like, I really don't, because like there are some elements that are good, but again, that's also something that was brought up in the HBomberGuy thing. So many small moments of this are like directly copied from like other shows.
Yeah.
So like, there's, for example, he goes the whole thing about how like the opening scene with the dust store is very similar to like a Cowboy Bebop thing.
Yeah.
There's
which we watched. Well, we didn't watch that specific scene yet, but we've watched Cowboy Bebop, and that general thing.
Yeah, there's that, and then the whole thing about like the school reminds me a lot of Soul Eater. That's
and
very
Hogwarts,
similar
I think,
to that.
too.
Yeah, but even like the visuals of it looks kind of like the thing in Soul Eater, and so it's like, okay, and the whole it's just like, I don't know, a bunch of it's just like, I don't know. It's one of those, like, is it awful? No, but
no.
There's no reason to watch this over something else, basically. Yeah. So, I don't know. I will say
Oh wait, you have to explain the incest
thing. Oh, the incest thing. Okay, right. I totally forgot. Okay, so in Volume 2, that's so awkward to say. In Season 2, I'm just gonna say that's easier. There's a fight that happens, and it's a fight that's like supposed to show how the team is working really well together. And so they have like, RWBY basically like calls out like code words as like, for like, oh, this is a secret move that's this code word or whatever, right? And each code word course is like, basically each secret move is two characters teaming up to do a thing. Okay. Now, each of those code words is actually like taken from the RWBY fandom spaces, because those code words were like the ship words or whatever.
Oh no!
For the characters. And the thing is, if you watch the scene, they have every character do a combination except RWBY and Yang, because RWBY and Yang have a ship name in the fandom, but they didn't use it in the show. So, yeah.
At least they avoided that.
Yeah, I guess, but like, damn, okay.
Jesus.
Yeah. Oh wait, I have to mention so a joke that so again, part of the HBomberGuy video is another thing is people have talked about how like a lot of the characters are white, and how that's like, I mean, again, like, well, anyway. But especially because the comment was like, especially regarding the fauna, like, oh, here's the oppressed race, the fauna. So it's like they're like white, anime cat girls. And it's like, all right. But the whole comment's like, yeah, it's like everyone's white. And then the comment I saw was like, what do you mean? In season 1, there's lots of black people.
The shadow extras.
Just kind of amazing. But again, like stuff like that, I could at least excuse, because it's like, yeah, it was a small thing, independent, not a lot of money. Okay, fine. It looks kind of dumb, but like, I understand. The writing, I don't understand.
Hi.
Still better than Vampire Knight.
Well, yes, because yes, it is. But
it didn't hurt me in Valen's brains nearly as much as Vampire Knight did.
No.
Which is really sad to say, honestly. Also, admittedly, the animation was better here than in Vampire Knight.
Oh yeah,
too.
Definitely. I mean, Vampire Knight didn't exactly like try to do any like action scenes really, but
that's true.
Sure, I guess.
All right. Well, I guess speaking of action scenes, we're gonna get to the third show of the month. So it's my turn, and I went with anime that I had watched once and regretted watching. So we're gonna go with Sword Art Online, but not season 1 of Sword Art Online. We're gonna go with the season that everyone kind of agrees that it's pretty terrible, which is season 2.
Is this gonna be like a Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1 all over again?
Well, in my opinion, I don't think we're going to necessarily be... I feel like both of you through osmosis already know the story of Sword Art
I
Online.
mean, I feel like we've all watched the Mother's Basement videos about the fairy dance arc.
Yeah. Alan, have you seen those or no?
I've seen it. I know I've seen at least one of his videos on it, but I don't remember which one.
All right. Well,
you can tell me later.
Yeah. So, in any case, we're going to be watching select episodes from season 2, where they're all fairies. So, I was the only one who actually watched Sword Art Online out of these 2. So,
and what do you have to say for yourself?
I regret that decision. So, with that, we're going to end January. So, goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
There's also incest. Not necessarily to the same extent as Vampire Night, at least, but we'll get there.